Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap where we looked at Job chapters 25 and 26. And as I promised you last week, 25 is a doozy, right? It's a long one. I think it's all 6 verses, so it's a lot to get through. But it is really good stuff in both. So firstly, we have Bildad respond, right? And so Job has just finished responding to Eliphaz, and now he's going to respond to Bildad. And you'll notice either to show exasperation or just the fact that there isn't really anything new that they're saying, Bildad's response isn't long, 6 verses, and he repeats a lot of what we've seen before, right? Repent, turn around, God punishes wickedness, you did something wrong, right? We've seen this a bunch of times. Then I think really where we want to spend the meat of this Bible study recap, and where we obviously spent the meat of our actual Bible study at, was in the discussion of chapter 26. Now, in chapter 26, we have Job describe something that is really important to us, right? And that is the sovereignty of God, right? So how does he describe God when he's going through these things? Well, he's talking about how God is in control of all things, right? There, he's in control of nature. That's where he spends a lot of his time at. And I think the important thing to recognize when he's talking about nature is he's not talking about it as though it's a scientific book. In fact, actually, it's even more kind of meaningful if you don't read it that way and if you understand it to be non-scientific, because what it's talking about is it's just saying, hey, like, we don't know how these things in nature work, right? I mean, and that's true for people at the time. They didn't know how these things in nature worked, right? I mean, they're not idiots. They can see patterns and things like that, right? They understand that, clouds bring water and things like that, but they don't understand the whole of the water cycle and things. And what he's getting at here is he's just trying to get at the point of all of the mystery of nature shows God's sovereign hand at work, right? So God is always working. He's always pushing how things are going, and this is seen in nature, and nature glorifies him, right? And he also has a much better view of humanity, or at least God's relation to it, than Bildad. Because if you look at like Bildad, what he talks about is he talks about humans being like less than worms and things like that, or no greater than worms, I should say. And that's not the view of humanity that Job has, and it's also not the view of humanity that God has. Because the upshot of what Job is talking about while he describes God's sovereignty here is that God's sovereignty is very concerned with humanity, right? All of these things happen, right? He tames the sea. He is in control of all of on the moon, things like that, right? And that's what we also did. We also did a little Hebrew lesson today about how throne in Job 26 is actually the moon, and just like, it's just to show God's sovereign power and control over the moon. But we also did a little Hebrew lesson today. But anyway, it's just to show the sovereign power that God has control over all of these things. And he does this because he wants to benefit humanity and because he's created humanity in his own image, right? So all of that is what Job is getting at here. Of course, where we're going to go next week is going to show, hey, this is why it's really important that I get justice or whatever. But you see again, I talked about this last week, but it's important again, is you see Job change his mind, yeah, but like just the way that he's talking about God, right? Just the way he's talking about God changes a lot. And I think it's to remind us that, yeah, these types of conversations are important because it makes us think differently about things, makes us be a little bit more nuanced and things like that. So anyway, that's what we talked about today. I'll see you guys next week where we're going to keep looking at Job's response. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and peace out.